and or obviously
Why
accept.
haven't we told this in
Yeah, and
retold? I just think it's that whole thing about empire. We don't learn about empire, even at GCSE
no, we
history,
don't.
A-level history. We do World War One, World War Two, Germany, history of medicine, I think, is in the syllabus now. And and so you have to pick up a book yourself, and you have to just, and I think it starts from who am I? So
Yeah,
at
it
some
does.
question, you're going to ask yourself, even a kid's going to, through an art project or through something, they can say, who am I? Am I really just Upton Park born West Ham Singh? Is that my whole life? Is just following two football teams? And if they then say, what did my granddad do? When did my granddad come here? Then slowly, they'll pick up a book and they'll go back to Punjab. Then they'll go back to, or you'll do it through the Gurdwara, where it's all about the 200 years Guru Nanak Dev Ji to Vaisakhi 1699. And then we don't learn about 18th century, the struggles of Sikhi then. And yet it's all in the Langar Hall, but no Punjabi school teacher has ever told you about it.
True, true.
You
And
know?
often the 200 years that you are taught is very, it's a very popular kind of mainstream narrative that doesn't necessarily look into some of
Yeah,
the
the issue.
nuances.
So I
Yeah.
think there's learning's going to have to come from family, your own research, and if you get the bug, then you'll do something with it. If you don't get the
True.
bug, at least you learnt it, right? Simple.
Yeah. Yeah, no, no,
At
no,
least you can
touche.
challenge. At least you can spot propaganda when you see it.
No, definitely.
You know?
So from university then,
Yeah.
explain as to the journey from kind of that point into then eventually starting or setting up a little history of the Sikhs.
Yeah. So in 2003, so I finished uni 99, started work in 2000. We had a couple of years of doing an iconic theatre play in Punjabi in Stratford, Theatre Royal. So that kind of brought me together with a big Sikh group. There was about 40 of us. And then we all started getting married, going our own ways, etc. Then Baji from the theatre group calls me back. We're setting up a Punjabi school. We need teachers. 2003 it was. And I was like, okay, that's giving up Saturday mornings, all right, I'll do it. My wife started helping at the Punjabi school. So it became kind of a family activity. Didn't have kids at the time. So 2003, 2003. Then my son was born. So he grew up through the Punjabi school of us dragging him to Punjabi school on Saturday mornings. And what happened to me was basically we had a lot of Punjabi school teachers from India, and I think Punjabi school teachers from India kind of think because they are called teacher that they deserve respect, but you're talking to like East London gangster little kids, who get dumped at Punjabi school and 3 hours later being picked up by their parents who are late because they're doing their shopping at Ilford or wherever. So the majority, and that is a disparity. I don't want to say everyone was like that, but really there was 20 parents who would help and about 200. And we had 350 on our roll, right? So Punjabi school ain't just one or two classes with 10 mates. We have our own building with 6 classrooms in it. We've got music room, lecture room. It's basically an old county court now. And first we had our own property, but the only way we could accommodate the kids was churn 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock classes on a Saturday. And the teachers would do as many as they can afford, time allows them, and then swap out with another teacher. And now we have Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday Punjabi schools, after school and weekends. But we had about 350 on the roll. So let's just say being Punjabi, half aren't going to come anyway, right? So about 180. And then out of that 180, splitting them into classes of 15, 20. So what Baji started doing, and I was probably one of the few male teachers, everyone else was madam. And when madam was getting dung from a few naughty kids, they would gather up all the kids, who the naughty ones, and give them to me. So I was like the teacher who could speak Essex and tell them, can engage. That's what I was supposed to be able to relate to them. But, every generation moves on, right? So this is the kids who are, mobile phones are coming out, their little PlayStation, Game Boy handheld devices being brought to Punjabi school. So the only way I could, and 2.5 hours thing, it's not easy to do all that 80 for 2.5 hours, right? So I started to break all my class up into 20-minute sessions. And I thought, why don't I just do it like school?
Yeah.
We'll do 20 minutes of art, then 20 minutes of music, then 20 minutes of but all Punjabi, all like to do with this. And then that gave me an opportunity to, all this history collection I've got behind me, to start bringing things into the Punjabi school, take a coin in, say to the kids, have a look at the coin. There's an order on there somewhere. Have a look for it, and 20 minutes passes just like that, Then here's a stamp. here's a newspaper article, why don't you copy it? 20
That's
minutes past
amazing.
6, right? So we were trying to bring in historical items, but
Yeah.
teaching it in Punjabi. And it kind of showed me that the kids do want to learn something, but they just don't want to turn that same J.S. Nagra book, Yellow Bay, page 16.
Punjabi Made Easy, book 1.
Book 1, all of those, right? Then those kids were starting to grow up with me and didn't want to leave that class because they were getting up in a boring class. And then I started, doing more. Then YouTube started. So on Thursdays, I would be downloading stuff, when Basic started, downloading it because we didn't have Wi-Fi. So we had to download it to our computer, then get one kid to set up a laptop and a projector, which we borrowed from work, the projector. Then we'd be projecting it on the wall. And then I'd just let Jagraj take over or someone else take over my class just by projecting it on a wall. Right? And we did that for a long time. And that was like the technology. We got technology in our class, right? So I went up to about 2010. And then by about 2013, it was actually 2010 to 2012, I was upstairs in a Sikhi camp in the Gurdwara Hall, telling them these little histories that I've collected and connected in London. And I realized that these kids don't even know where Fenchurch Street is. So when I'm trying to say Tower of London,
they've got no idea.
They don't even know, because they were like me. They've never stepped out of Newham, right? Or Ilford. So then I switched it into actually just bringing a Monopoly board in and saying Fenchurch Street is next to Tower Bridge. Tower Bridge is where the Kohinoor is. Bond Street is a jeweler's called Cartier, and Cartier made this necklace for the Maharajah of Patiala. And so we made this Monopoly board based on Sikhi, and that used to kill 2 hours easy. Just play Monopoly, right? So that's now published, and it's out there called Sikhopoloy now instead of Monopoly. Because the Singh twins gave me that idea, because I was so worried about bloody getting a lawsuit from Waddington's about, using Monopoly, that I changed all the cards to just be stripes, and all this stuff. And I'm now making the property card set that supplements the real Monopoly board. Nice. So you can just buy the Sikh history cards, because every location on the Monopoly board was one of my visits, and so I used to take these kids there to these sites and tell the stories, then come back 2 hours later, because London, it's just fast train in, take a group there, show them.
Can you buy the Sikhopoloy board at the moment?
So everyone else keeps saying, oh, Singh, why don't you make it? Why don't you make it? And I was like, mate, do you know how much bunga that's going to be trying to sell a Sikh version of a Monopoly board to the Sikh community? I said, they don't support Sikh initiatives. I know that, right? I'd be just break my back, and I said, what's the point? Better off, I just make the cards. You can print them, stick them on your own Monopoly cards, and the job done. You don't need little bug man going around. You can just have your car and your camel or whatever it is. But if you land on Whitechapel, here's the Sikh story. If you land on Islington, here's the Sikh story. White or Northumberland Avenue, Vine Street, both. It's all here, And we did that for about 2 years, and then we represented the lecture at Vasaki camp 2 years later after all the research. And the kids kind of enjoyed it because they remember it.
Yeah.
Now these kids are at university now, and they call me back for that lecture because they still remember what they learned for that amazing. 3-4 minutes, because they played Monopoly. So by association, they would retain a lot more information.
Yeah.
And we know educationally that works.
Yeah.
But we're still, putting our kids through a very traditional method of learning Punjabi, and we haven't modernized, So that was what I felt. And then in 2013, another one of your interviews, Campbell Singh.
Yep.
So he used to live locally to me here. I didn't know that was him. I just knew Nihang Singh lives at the other corner property. And then I think after about a year of living here, he told me his name's Kamal Roop. Said, that's fine. Didn't think of anything. Then I knew his name's Dr. Kamal Roop.
Yeah.
And I was like, not the Dr. Kamal Roop. And he goes, what do you mean, the Dr. Kamal Roop? I said, the one whose books I've got at my home. So he came upstairs and he did a fateh in the Babaji's room. And I said, look, there's your book. He was like, yeah. So then he became a little bit of a mentor. And he said to me, Singh, this is good stuff you're doing. You need to work on it and bring it out of the Punjabi school. And a lot of other people were saying it to me. Basics of Sikhi, Harinder Malay.
Yeah.
He also sat in one of my lectures at Karamsar, and he said, "No, Singh, you need to be doing this at Sikhi camp." It was called Sikh Retreat in those days. I think your dad was at one of them in those days, right? So I was presenting there at Sikh Retreat, and all these little opportunities were just bringing Punjabi school lectures outside of Ilford and presenting at either Sikh Retreat, and Kamal Roop asked me to submit a paper at a conference he was organizing. and he helped me, and I said, how do I write this stuff up for an academic audience, and he was then telling me, and he QA'd it and reviewed it, got the opportunity to present there, and it started to, it's a little snowball, but it started to work. And things in my head, you get a lot of moral support from people.
Yeah.
You get a lot of moral support, but they haven't turned up on a tour, right? So they tell you, oh, well done, Singh, keep going. And I'm like, I only keep going if people turn up for the bloody tours. If they don't turn up, I might as well retire, And,
yeah, true.
So the challenge is always trying to keep people engaged. So there's a lot of edutainment on the tours.
Yes.
It's not boring at all, and it's a lot of group work. But so 2013, we started A Little History of the Sikhs, and it was called Monopoly Sikh History Tours, Karam Sar Sikh History Tours. But I had a lawyer look at it, and he said they can't sue you for the word little, And I said, we're only little. We work with little groups. We're not UKPHA. We're not, ASHD. We're none of those. We're just doing tours, taking a group out, making sure they learn something so they remember it. And that's how we started, So, and that's why I like it, So, and the little gives me a way to stay away from people who really want, why aren't you putting this on about Gurpurab? And I'm like, we're only little. We only do the 200 years recent modern day Sikh history. We don't do traditional Guru period, because I said there's lots of good people doing it. Why don't I just tell you where to go if you want that? There's good people. Share UK Charity do a great stuff. Basics, obviously, Nanak Naam. So go follow them and learn from them. If you want to learn Sikhi, learn there. If you want to learn little bits of Sikh history on the streets of London, I'm your man.
Come here. Yeah, no, definitely. Well, just talking about your website, when I was looking through it, you have a quote kind of front and center of your homepage that reads, "Until the lions have their own historians, the history of the hunt will always glorify the hunter." Now, the reason, there's a number of reasons why that came to my attention. First of all, it's because I remember in my first history lecture at university, this is how the lecture started, with that quote on the board, and the lecturer talking about how
from a Nigerian person.
It's an African proverb or something, yeah.
It was made prominent by a Nigerian who promoted it in one of his talks.
And the lecturer was basically talking about how, as a historian, you're kind of, one of your responsibilities is writing the story of what is happening and trying to do justice to the narrative you're trying to tell. On top of that, I've had conversations with other people on the podcast where they've just completely outright disagreed with this statement because of whatever reason. And I've always find it interesting, and I love having these podcasts because I get to learn so much and really get inside people's kind of brains. But what is it about this quote that resonates with you? And what do you think it is saying to you?
Yeah. So I think this quote, it was probably brought to my attention probably by ASH, the Anglo-Sikh Heritage Trail at the time. They had it plastered on their website. Until the lions have their own historians, the history of the hunt will always glorify the hunter. And given my 10, 15 years of going through markets and seeing these kind of English books about the Anglo-Sikh wars and the great, Victorians who won these battles, that's what I was thinking. Maybe I'm just reading the history from the victor's side.
Yeah.
These letters, that the Punjab was like this and the Punjab was like that, or India is like this, and the Gandhi, story being told to us through that eyes, and to say I was probably a collector of Indian stuff in the 90s. Okay. Because I thought I was Indian, right?
Yeah.
And then I sold off all my Indian stuff to fund my Sikh stuff in the late 90s, before eBay came out, and then kind of used all the money on the early days of eBay. So that kind of struck me. Yeah, I didn't know any Indian or Sikh historians, I only knew, the book Christy Campbell's one came out then around that time, very early.
I'm actually reading that right now, and it's
Maharajah's box.
Yeah, it's an insane book. I'm about halfway through it. My plan is to finish it and get in contact with them, and hopefully
I'll get you in contact with him. You can,
please, I would.
He's a nice guy. Peter Bance knows him really well.
God, I'd love to do a podcast with him because I've read the first, I think, 9 or 10 chapters.
Yeah.
Actually, what happened was, I'm sure you have a similar thing, which is every few so a lot of the books behind me, and particularly the shelf kind of they're books that I've started to read, but I haven't finished. So
but you end up being a skim reader, right? You're looking for what you want. Yeah, I know. I do the same.
So So I was getting not bored, but I was like, all right, I don't want to kind of dig into any of those again. Let me see if I can order some new books or whatever. And then I was like, instead of buying them for full price off Amazon, let's see if I can get them secondhand. So I thought, all right, let me try online. So I went onto the Oxfam website and I found
Loads. They put them all
loads.
online.
Oh God, I found
I
so
worked
many.
in Brixton, the bookshops there. You've got the Amnesty bookshop in Hammersmith when I worked there. And I have picked up so many books, right? And what you need to do is go to a bookshop near a political centre, because these books get given to MPs for free, and the MPs just give it to their local bookshop, Oxfam and Amnesty.
That's
And
clever.
you just see so many, and I've picked up so many for £2-3 in hardback.
Yeah,
right?
it's nothing. So I bought maybe